Did you know that Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM, has over 90 different shows produced by over 350 community members? This wide range of programming produced by our diverse group of programmers ensures that we have a show you'll love. We have shows on feminism, spirituality, disability rights, politics, unions, and parenting. We play jazz, indie rock, reggae, blues, and folk. We broadcast in a dozen different languages and have more First Nations programs than any other radio station in Vancouver. Find your show on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. All different, all the time.
Wow, look at all this great food. There's so much to choose from.
I know, Frank, and it's all yummy.
But what is all this food called?
Well, it's Pinoy street food. This is the Filipino street food song. This is the Filipino street food song. And when you hear the Filipino street food song, go to the street and eat it all night long. We have fishball, you too soup it like sweet ball. Just ask us Pinoy people, we like it cause it's so sarap and mura. Kikiam and siomai, ihaw chicken, inihaw with this weekend. And pork and fishes and toknen and livers make us scream like believers. Though we are wearing slippers, we eat Betamax and Adidas helmet and headphones and sorbetes. Hamburger with some lettuce. Come have some isaw or calamares. This is the Filipino street food song. This is the Filipino street food song. And when you hear the Filipino street food song, go to the street and eat it all night long. Balot, aborted egg we salute. To one day of binalot and drink some sago or taho. Quack quack and Pinoy, it is perfect. Like hot dog for your picnic. Stop thinking dirty ice cream to lick. Halo halo, fruit juices fresh to swallow. With candy but to follow. And don't forget to run with Milo. Pinas is where to eat, so join us as we go to the canto singing Filipino street food song. This is the Filipino street food song. This is the Filipino street food song. And when you hear the Filipino street food song, go to the street and eat it all night long. I like to eat hot hairy bird.
What?
You're listening to Kahit Saan Pa Man here on Jeepney Cafe, only on 100.5 CFRO Vancouver's Co-op Radio. Happy March, everybody. This is your host, Lou.
And I'm M.
That took like a second.
I wanted a dramatic entrance, you know.
Well, I guess I didn't lead you up that well, did I?
No, but it's fine. I introduced myself, and I know that I have a different name every time we do the show.
You do.
But that's just, I
It's
just
like-
have many identities. It's fine.
It's like, I don't know, it's like an identity crisis or something.
Like we don't have that every year when it comes to our music.
Oh,
but okay.
that is very true. Actually, exciting stuff. We are, yeah. Well, you'll get that. We'll get to that later. It'll be a fun thing. Well, we did lead up
Fun
to
surprise.
it. I don't know if it's a surprise. I actually posted about it on Instagram already. So.
But do anybody follow us on Instagram right now? That's just a shameless plug right there. Go follow us on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Kahit Saan Pa Man.
Or our music Instagram actually as well. CREMUU. I believe we just changed that recently.
Always an identity crisis.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's another story for another time. But yes, it's Happy March time. Sorry, it's
Happy March time.
I know.
Happy March time.
I know.
I'm hungry. Are you?
Oh, I am actually. Anyway, sorry. That first song. Oh, that was a really weird lead up. But anyway, that first song was called the Filipino Street Food Song by Mikey Bustos. Mikey Bustos actually being a really prevalent, I guess, figure from I think he's from Toronto actually. But yeah, he's pretty well known. I think he was on Canadian Idol at some point. But through that, like, he's done a lot of contribution here as a Filipino Canadian artist. He was actually in a musical production called Prison Dancer the Musical, based off of the prison dancers that were, I think, in the widely known in the Philippines. for I guess making those big dance performances for as part of their physical activity requirements. But yes,
So why did you play that specific Mikey Busto
that
song today?
specific Mikey Busto song.
Very specific.
I wonder why. We have a very, very fun theme today, and that is.
This time you tried to lead me out, but didn't quite happen.
No.
Anyway, it's Filipino food.
Yay! I'm really hungry.
I think everyone is after hearing that song.
I wish I could just. You guys should watch the music video. Actually, the music video is up on YouTube on Mikey Bustos' channel, and it's
So
just,
too bad that it's like we can't play a video on the radio.
I know, but it's like he goes through the streets of the Philippines and he just shows you like all the Filipino street food, and oh my goodness, it's like bringing back a lot of memories for me. I mean, not that many memories, but it's still mouth-watering memories. But Jess, right on to the show. Wow, that was an entirely long lead up. In terms of food from Asia, Filipino food is not necessarily as well known as food from other cultures such as China, Japan, Malaysia, Thailand. And when Vietnamese food is actually like it has had a lot of steam like lately. I think in the past few years, especially with like the internet and their obsession with pho, which is
Yum.
to be fair, I am also quite enamored by that soup-based dish. Wow, words on our drink.
Soup pastry. Let's just put that down for the books.
Yeah,
Continuing about Filipino food.
When people think of Filipino food, the first things that probably pop up in their minds are, their staples like lumpia, pancit, adobo. Any other ones that you can think of, them?
Definitely panakbat, kare-kare, tilapia. Oh my goodness. What is the bangos?
That's so good.
Yeah,
the grilled.
Yes.
And but with over 7,000 islands in the Philippines, with so many different nuanced cultures that reside in there, Filipino food can actually be quite diverse. It's a cuisine that's been gaining attention lately,
Especially the dessert. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, ube. It's been getting a lot of attention lately.
Yes, but it's been around. Everyone's like, oh, it's so new, but it's taro.
It's been there forever.
Yeah, it's been there.
But yeah, according to a 2017 Bloomberg article, actually, online searches on Filipino food in 2017 have doubled since 2012, with queries for lumpia near me having skyrocketed over 3,000%, which I think is
deserved.
Very much
Deserved. Lumpia, food of the heavens.
For those who aren't familiar, lumpia is basically the Filipino version of spring rolls.
Best spring rolls ever.
Yeah.
That sweet chili sauce.
Oh
when you
my
dip it into
goodness.
the lumpia. I mean, I'm
not the only one here having issues.
No, I am like thinking about this food so much I can't even talk straight. So when you dip the lumpia into the sweet chili sauce and you put it in your mouth and you take that first bite, and then you take your 20th bite,
50 lumpias later.
I mean, one could eat that many in one sitting. Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, it's
delicious.
Really, yes. But yeah, Em, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with Filipino food? What you grew up eating, things that you liked.
Well, actually, all the ones that I listed earlier are things that I really, really love to eat. But to be fair, there's a lot of Filipino food that I don't really know the name of, and we'll get more on that later. But the story that I want to share specifically that I was thinking about today was actually my story to do with you. Because when we were growing up, we had very different experiences with a dish called kare-kare. And in any time I've ever had it, whether my parents made it or whether a relative made it, or even just at Filipino parties where it's not even people that I necessarily know or we're not friends with or from the same region, I've always had it with like a peanut butter sauce. It was made with peanut butter. But when I first asked Lou about it, which was like maybe a few years ago, she was like, peanut butter? she's like, it's not made with peanut butter. It's never been made with peanut butter. I'm like, what?
I still stand to that to this day.
We had this whole like argument about it, but really we just had to agree to disagree because
we had to look it up actually.
Yeah, because it's apparently it's made with peanut butter depending if where
you're from.
Where you're from, if it's from like a poorer area or just the situation of your family, but also. She had it with peanuts.
Yeah, I just had it with peanuts because that's what I was used to. Like,
I'm sorry we couldn't afford peanuts.
That's what it's gonna be. Oh gosh, the guilt. Well, yeah, because
it's just made differently. Like because she even asked like her other the other tenants who live in her place who also make it, and they said, oh, we've always made it with peanuts too. So I really think it's definitely like a regional thing as well, or like it's a way of growing up. But anyway, basically it's a delicious dish that has the peanut flavor, whether it is your synthetic peanut butter or it's real peanuts. Okay.
I'm always gonna feel the shade coming from, because I ended up asking my other friends as well that come from Abra, which is a province up north, and they're like, yeah, dude, it's always been made with peanut butter. Like, how dare you? And they shaded me for it.
Everyone I talk to, like, I actually asked this to some people when we talk about Filipino food. I say like, oh, you've had kare-kare, like, when is it ever made with peanuts? Because I was honestly really curious, and like about like 6 or 7 people were like, oh, you only had peanuts if you had, you grew up with a little bit of privilege in the Philippines, which is,
that's not the case for me. Well, I mean, like, maybe actually, because
it was just very different, only because
maybe back then it was made like that.
I was just very shocked, only because like from a certain age, Lou was already here in Canada, like maybe about like 5 years after me or so, but still by the time we were like preteens and teens and whatever, we grew up very similarly in terms of like areas and like
I grew up in Vancouver, she grew up in Vancouver, like,
yeah, so it was just odd to have such a discrepancy. But really, like, if we think about it, like, there's a big reason to why there's so many different ways to make dishes.
I mean, there's just Filipino people, like, they're so varied, right? Like, again, going back to what I said earlier, there was over 7,000 islands with different cultures, and not necessarily all of them have different cultures, but there's so many different backgrounds that have gone into it. And with the history of the Philippines being a very colonized country, there's been a lot of outside influence that have helped develop what we know as Filipino food today.
And even changes town by town.
Oh, yeah.
Really region by region.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about your stories about Filipino food?
Well,
besides the fact that you want it right now.
I always kind of grew up with eating Filipino food, like, obviously because my parents are Filipino as well, right? Wait, no, that's not a question at all. But my parents just preferred home cooking as opposed to going out to eat. I did not actually like going out to eat as much as I guess when I turned into a preteen. I moved here in Vancouver. A lot of introduction to new different foods then, but usually we just had Filipino food at home ever since I was a kid. And actually, when I was in the Philippines as well, we used to like make ice candies, and we used to sell them in our neighborhood. And it's just, yeah. But I have a lot of really fond memories of the Filipino food. I really like cooking. And part of that, I like cooking Filipino food. The thing is, though, Filipino food could just be really expensive to make. I was a student out in Toronto like a few years ago, and I was feeling a little like nostalgic for Filipino food, and I wanted to make pakbet. But because, Filipino food has a lot of ingredients, very time consuming, but also they use ingredients that aren't necessarily native of North America. So you have to get them imported from other countries. And so when you're trying to make pakbet as a single, like, really budgeting student, when you usually use $20 for your whole week's worth of groceries, and you end up using $20 for one meal to make it, it's a little disheartening.
One can say that it is worth it, but also not really. It's
I
worth
guess
it because like you get that
the
dish,
satisfaction.
but what are you gonna eat the rest of the week?
But again, like, if you're a busy person too, it's kind of difficult because it does get time consuming. Like, one of my favorite things to eat is laing, which is taro leaves, but it's cooked in coconut milk. But the thing is, in order to make the laing like the way that I like it, you have to dry out the leaves. So it takes about a 2-day drying out stage before you can even start using the leaves properly.
In Filipino food.
Yeah,
so much prep.
But anyway, with that said, we're gonna take a little bit of a break here and
further curb our cravings.
I know,
with some
I'm just
food
really
songs.
hungry right now. And play you 2 songs actually. The first song is Adobo by Ken Johns. Not actually about adobo, but his fun story here is that Ken Johns is actually or he used to be part of the Philippine All Stars group, who is they had, I believe, won the Hip Hop International competition in Las Vegas twice, back in 2008 or something like that. And anyway, we'll get to that in another show. Filipinos are quite prevalent within the international dance community, but he has his own his own music career. I actually met him one time in passing. I was in Toronto, and he was his friend was doing a dance workshop, and I used to be a dancer in my past life.
Ooh,
and
past
the next
life.
song is called Welcome to Manila by Bamboo and Masterplan. And actually, I thought about M. Think when I wanted to play this song or put the song on the show.
I am Filipino. I eat tocino.
Iconic lines. I love it.
My favorite line. My favorite lyrics in the world.
We're still waiting for M to create her own version.
Oh, I will. I'll be that SoundCloud rapper life, you know.
All right. So check it out. You're going to listen to those songs right now here on Kahit Saan Paman on GP Cafe, only on 100.5 CFRO, Vancouver's Co-op Radio.
Woo! Fly Pinay. Yup. Yo, hot girls in the club. Hey, hey, what can I say? Hey, what's cooking? Hey, adobo, 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 lutong Pilipino. Lutong napakasarap. Araw-araw yan ang hanap sa likod. Sa harap ganyan ako mangarap. Puti o maitim, dati ay nakatikim ng iba't ibang klase, lahi at putahe. Iba pa rin, pansinin, di nawawalan ng asim. Tawag dyan ay adobo, ang lutong Pilipino. International, all my haters getting so emotional. I be repping nothing but original. Baby, I ain't frontin', I'm just letting you know. I've been around the world, tasted different flavors, talking about them girls. Black, white, Latina, they all fly like a bird. Butterfly, Filipino chick will make them boys wanna say, what's cooking? Hey, adobo, 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 lutong Pilipino. Adobo, 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 aking paborito. You see, I'm just a guy and I can't deny I dated 1, 2, 3 chicks just to get my flavor fix. You the dish I had to set aside, but the taste of your loving got me to decide. I've been around the world, tasted different flavors, talking about them girls. Black, white, Latina, they all fly like a bird. Butterfly, Filipino chick will make them boys wanna say, what's cooking? Hey, adobo, 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 lutong Pilipino. Adobo, 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 aking paborito.
Vinegar and soy sauce. We marinate the chicken, serve it with a good cause. We don't double cross, we believe in one God. So don't you try to run around and try to make a mad. And I'd be really sad, I'll be with my new chick. We be buying new kicks. We be making movie flicks to represent the whole clique.
Sadyang may mga taong kung tawagin ay sala. Wahan na mahilig magsabay ng dalawa. Putahi man, babae man, lalaki at ano pa man. Gustong gusto pero ang puso'y di dapat paglaruan. Kahit na anong lahi man ay bahid ng nakasanayan ay kultura. Traditional, konbertos man at magkamay.
Adobo, 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 lutong Pilipino. Adobo, 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 aking paborito. Adobo, 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 lutong Pilipino. Adobo, 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 aking paborito. 6 fingers on the track.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, welcome to Manila. My blood is 100% Filipino. Habli tocino, hella hurt to hear about victims of the quakes in Iloilo. Pero we know that the land getting raided plays in the awe. When you soften up the mud, then the land gon' fall. So it's 1, 2, yes, y'all. Lola in the kitchen frying chicken, collect calling. Homesick, so this homecoming was the plan. Master plan, big bam. See how Pinoy I am? Same, since 1896, born if I show five. Same hustle, same G that kept my papa alive. So as we ride in a trike on an island boy life, Team Manila shirt wrapped around my bald head tight. Francis M on the stereo, flying through the barrio, spitting like I finally found a seat in the Sampaloc and we home now. Someone throw turon inside a pan. Hey yo, rock, take me out to B-side soon as I land.
And these hot ass streets. Welcome to Manila.
Riding these fat ass beats.
Welcome to Manila.
Master plan, get you out. You
see.
Welcome to Manila.
With bamboo, now you feel the heat.
Welcome to Manila.
In these hot ass streets.
Welcome to Manila.
Riding these fat ass beats.
Welcome to Manila.
Master plan, get you out, you see.
Welcome to Manila.
With bamboo, now you beat rock, beat
It's
rock.
like keep it fly on a summer night. In the motherland, jam inside this cold, holding your lover tight. Or near the water where the sun is bright and all the sand is white. Tap the mic until the morning light. And then I'm chilling in the mix of all the green hills. Got my dollars, vendors holler with the sweet tears. I keep it real, hit up my people for the fit. Coming in quick with the lick, got me flipping like a ballet song. So let's rally with the song of the drum. Get it dumb, diddy dum, diddy diddy dum. Come to Manila, witness history in effect. Once again, we got the recipe to make you hit the deck. We catch a wreck like it's 1992 with the MC of the future Bamboo. I thought you knew. And with the crew, Sun Valley, it's a cool, cause I'm a true Asiatic crew, Asiatic crew.
Welcome to Manila.
In these hot ass streets.
Welcome to Manila.
Riding these fat ass beats.
Welcome to Manila.
Master plan, get you out, you see.
Welcome to Manila.
With bamboo, now you beat rock, beat rock.
Here's another one from the master plan. Click, true Asiatic tribe bamboo, make your head split quick. Bridging the gap from LA to Manila Bay with no delay. The homecoming making history, you feeling me? Been paying dues since 92. We paving the way, and now we introduce you bamboo. Damn fool, I Johnny crush you like a cashew. What did the statue say to the other statue? A statue, glassy eyed, rolling in the right headed for B-side. Block in the glove, pow pow, that's how we ride. Yossi selling on the side, Sampaguita hanging from the rear view. Go, it smells good inside. China Seaside, Rojas Boulevard to be exact. Next to Boom the carnival that we performed at. Remember that? Baseball helmets just without the bat. Red and green pant legs with the matching cross colors.
So
hats.
good to be back in these Manila streets. Pirate bus on the jeepney, stop in 1993. Since the days of Heartbeat, Mega Disco or IMC in the QC. With the family got down, from Yololo to the Boon, so we pushing hip hop like Turo Turo. Puro, B-boys and gangsters riding high beats like no aircon in this tropical weather. So what's your pleasure? Fight at that B-side, cause the Philippines got musical style like buried treasure. All over the archipelago, I'd like to say hello, where I get down with my fellows. Now we back again with our true friends. Rock a B-side, beginning to end, while you're getting bent with your hands up in the sky, doing a candle dance, looking super fly.
Welcome to Manila.
And these hot ass streets.
Welcome to Manila.
Riding these fat ass beats.
Welcome to Manila.
Master plan, get you out, you see.
Welcome to Manila.
With bamboo, now you feel the heat.
Welcome to Manila.
In these hot ass streets.
Welcome to Manila.
Riding these fat ass beats.
Welcome to Manila.
Master plan, get you out, you see.
Welcome to Manila.
With bamboo, now you beat rock, beat rock.
Manila Thrillers.
You're listening to Kahit San Pa Man on Jeepney Cafe here on 100.5 CFRO Vancouver's Co-op Radio. So we just had two different flavors of Filipino hip-hop there. Again, the first song was Adobo by Ken Johns, and the second song was Welcome to Manila by Bamboo and Master Plan.
I crush you like a cashew.
I love it. I love that second song.
Oh,
Not gonna
that second
lie.
song is like the best.
I've been we gotta give credit to Kuya John who
Recommended.
hosts. Yeah, he recommended. He recommended. Sorry, for those who don't know, Kuya John, the host of Balikbayan Mixtape, which is the show that actually comes next week. But yeah, he recommended for me and to listen to Bamboo as part of our homework, I guess, for catching up on Filipino artists
Here in the West specifically.
Yeah, and yeah, forever thankful for that. Bamboo's an amazing artist. Definitely an artist to check out.
Yeah, definitely check him out, and check out
Rocky Rivera as well.
Rocky Rivera, definitely, like
Those
her
that
stuff,
duo.
for sure. Like, I'm just sad that a lot of her stuff we can't play on mainstream,
But it's so powerful.
primetime radio. But yes, you should all listen to her stuff as well. It's like
those
incredibly
two
powerful.
in particular have very powerful music. I feel like I don't know. I can't find words that would justify exactly.
Just go listen to them.
Basically.
And we shall continue to talk about Filipino food.
Yeah. So Filipino food takes a lot of influence from several other cultures. most likely due to the history of the country. We've had a lot of basically very open borders, I guess, in that there's a lot of countries that have come in and they've brought their influence in there and to us culturally, and that definitely reflects in the way that our food is nowadays. Besides the different cultures that are distinct in the islands itself that make up the archipelago, history has seen the influence of European, Asian, and American flavors. Claudia McNeely, in her 2017 Vogue article, actually titled "How Filipino Food is Becoming the Next Great American Cuisine," in there, she states that often called the original fusion cuisine, Filipino food is an intricate pattern of Spanish, Western, Chinese, Japanese, and Pacific Islander flavors that serve as living proof of the country's rich cultural history. I would also like to add into that, we also have a lot of Malaysian and Thai, very crossover flavors from Southeast Asia as well. There's a lot of sharing of this similar, I guess, dishes. Which makes Filipino food quite unique and very tasty.
Emphasis on tasty.
Very much so. Indeed, we see it in some of the food, and we see it in some food of our famous dishes. Oh my gosh, I can't. I wrote this a while ago. You can tell.
Here, let me try.
Yes.
Indeed, we see it in some food of our most famous dishes, such as the pancit. Pancit. Drawing, I just said that very much with bad accent. Drawing influence from noodle dishes of China, even being named after regions of China.
Yeah,
Flan from Europe, even use of Spam when it was introduced by the Americans through the use of the Philippines as a military base.
Yeah.
Even now, especially here in the West, we see a lot of evolutions in the way Filipino food is being prepared to be specifically fusion cuisine.
And we see that in the types of restaurants that are actually popping up. Of course, Filipino food being a crossover of so many different genres of international foods, but we're also seeing Filipino food being remixed, I guess is one way that you could say it, to towards even different we see it in restaurants here, they're being remixed to different types of cultural cuisines as well. Not gonna name any specific restaurants.
Well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that later. Yeah.
About where you can find them in Vancouver. If those of you who are from Vancouver who are listening.
Yeah, but it's been a really interesting thing. So we're getting fusion on fusion. But with Filipino cuisine being an ongoing trend here in the West, the question is, why has it taken so long for Filipino food to gain traction versus other Southeast Asian cuisines such as Vietnamese, Malaysian, and Thai? Well, there are some theories. There's a Filipino restaurant owner in a 2014 interview with Public Radio International states that one of the reasons could be what is considered hiya, which is roughly translated in English, kind of means embarrassment or shame. In the interview, she states that is why some restaurants give the quote-unquote white man menu to customers, because they think that they're not going to like dinuguan, which is a pork blood stew. What are your thoughts about that, Em?
I think that the idea of trendiness is very much an opportunistic one. I think that specifically, I can only speak from this as a Vancouverite, since this is the only place I've ever really lived, that Japanese food was such a big thing here just because of the demographic and whatnot. And now that even though you go to a lot of other restaurants that are Asian nowadays, even though they are gaining more popularity, such as Thai, Malaysian, Vietnamese, or whatnot, they'll still ask for sushi. And it's ridiculous. It relates to actually something that I shared with Lou the other day, or was it last night, about basically an FAQ from a restaurant that literally was a Malaysian restaurant, and one of the it was a lot of ridiculous.
Vietnamese restaurant, wasn't it?
Was it? Okay, anyway, at the very end it just basically said, "Oh, do you have sushi rolls?" No, Vietnamese restaurant in bold letters. Because I think that because a certain thing was very prevalent here. There's been a lot of expectation from the more ignorant crowd regarding Asian food, that they lump it in all together. But really, everything is very, very different. And so I can see why this restaurant owner would say that, because there is...
Well, to give background, this restaurant owner was from New York, so it's quite a diversity there as well.
Yeah, so I understand, just because, like, given the fact that Filipino food is still very much unknown, that a lot of very specific dishes, especially like dinugan, and like there's other things with like liver in it, and other ingredients that are not usually found, or flavors even that are not usually found within like a Western palate.
I have to kind of take up on that though, because there's blood pudding in English cuisine. There's haggis in Scottish cuisine. There's also a whole bunch of like different types of things like that.
Yeah, but that's European. We have to. We're
Quote,
going
unquote,
back
European.
to no. We're going back to the racism of it all, really, because it's an ignorance. It's definitely an ignorance, and I think that's a very much an answer to the question of why it's not gaining a lot of popularity. Is just because inherently a lot of Westerners will believe that, like, it's very much instilled in our psyche that something European tends to be better or like more acceptable. And for example, we can go back to names, like people can pronounce things like George Stroumboulopoulos, but when it comes to just saying something that's like a friend of mine had a name, or she had a friend of mine had a name, her name was like Sora Park, and people still couldn't pronounce that, and that's like, I don't know, to me that's way more
no shade to George. I love George.
No, for sure. I just using it as an example just because that is a very like is it Greek, I believe? Yes, it's a very Greek name, and it's very long and it's hard to spell, but people, will still try to very much.
I like German names.
But basically all those names are quite hard to pronounce, but they, like, the media and Western culture tends to push being able to say them, but as soon as it comes to things that are Asian, it's very hard for them to palate, I suppose.
I think maybe Vancouver is kind of an interesting bubble in itself, just because we have like such a large Asian population here, and I think inherently we're a lot more acceptable here. Like, there's a lot of different types of cuisines here that we're very blessed with. I remember like going to other places in the world, and I was just like, oh my gosh,
for sure.
Like, we don't. It's hard to say whether or not we get quote unquote authentic like cuisines from around the world. Like, I can tell quite kind of quote unquote authentic Filipino food, but it's like for other cuisines, obviously, like I'm not an expert on that. But even like going to a place like Toronto, where they did not really have much selection on sushi.
Same with Montreal, but like for sure, I think Vancouver, we are so blessed that we can get so many different really, really tasty cuisines that are done very well considering of our demographic here.
Yeah, so I guess in that sense too, I mean, especially with the internet, we get a lot of exposure definitely for Filipino cuisine, which is great. But yeah, there is still quite a hill for Filipino food to go over before we become, I guess, part of the mainstream. But you guys really should check out Filipino food. It's really quite awesome.
And before we get to introducing our next two songs, the last thing that I'll leave you off with is that, in my opinion, I think that Filipino food doesn't necessarily have to hit mainstream popularity, mostly because I kind of like that it's kind of a hidden treasure.
A hipster thing.
Okay, not because it's a hipster thing, but because, let's be real, some of the articles that I've seen that have been popping up to do with Filipino food are being written by white people who said, first things first, it's pronounced ube.
But they don't say ube.
Ube, yeah, whatever it is, and it's like not even...
No,
like, I'm definitely second generation, and I don't pronounce things right all the time, but even more so, someone who absolutely knows nothing about it, I was insulted. So you know what? I'd rather keep it a hidden treasure.
But it's like a two-sided, two-edged sword.
Yes,
with that,
two-edged
because
sword.
it's like it's a great treasure, but also I would really like it to be mainstream for the fact that I want it to be more available. Like, you know how expensive Filipino food can be?
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, to be fair, again, in our next segment, we'll talk about more fusion cuisine that are around Vancouver. And we'll just talk about specific streets and areas, since we're not going to name specific restaurants. But you can always message us personally and we'll tell you.
Yeah. So these next two songs, one of them actually written by yours truly. One of them. Yeah.
Wow. There's a song coming up. Wow.
There's a song coming up. It's called Honey that I would like to share with you guys. Oh, that is the big surprise that we said at the very beginning. Although it's not really a surprise because we posted it at this point. And the next song is by an American artist, a Filipino-American artist named Asukal. And the song is How It's Gonna Be. And I gotta give like a bit of a shout out to her. I reached out to her on Instagram, and she was just like really like, I asked her if I could play her song. She's just like, yeah, do it. And her songs are really awesome. You guys check her out, please. She's great.
So Suko, if you're listening, this one's for you.
Yeah.
dreaming of a memory that made me weep. I looked over a river and my pockets were heavy, but you took my hand and sang to me a beautiful melody that put me at ease. Blue lights fall from the curtains. I open my eyes. The clouds hide the sun. I realized I'll only know you in my dreams, but wide awake I know you're not here. But you saved me, oh you set me free by changing the end of a memory. You left me in a dream. Why couldn't you be real? Hoping one day we would meet. You mean everything to me. So soft, so sweet, and pure like honey. A lullaby to bring me peace. Blue lights fall from the curtains. I open my eyes. The clouds hide the sun. I realized I'll only know you in my dreams, but wide awake I know you're not here. But you saved me, oh you set me free by changing the end of a memory. I awoke from my sleep, heartbeat unsteady, dreaming of a memory that made me weep. I looked over a river and my pockets were heavy, but you took my hand and sang to me a beautiful melody that put me at ease.
You're not in the wrong. I gave you no warning. I do what I want. Maybe it's not working. You get insecure when I withhold assurance. Hold on to my every word. Don't mean to abuse it when I project on you. When I lose sight of who I wanna be, and there are a million other ways, but I just can't tell you that it's not okay, okay. You cannot hold me like I'm yours. I cannot make you a man apart from flesh. I told you. 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 Find me every day. I'm drinking all your tears, boy. Nothing left to say. Just drink away your year, boy. it's not okay, okay. You cannot hold me like I'm yours. I cannot make you a man apart from flesh. I told you. You can't tell me what we need, but I don't know how it's gonna be. Call me whenever you bleed. Your voice haunts me, even in my dreams. Oh, you can't tell me what we need, but I don't know how it's gonna be. Call me whenever you bleed. Your voice haunts me, even in my dreams. Oh, you cannot hold me like I'm yours. I cannot make you a man apart from flesh. I told you. You cannot hold me like I'm yours. I cannot make you a man apart from flesh. I told you.
You're listening to Vancouver Co-op Radio 100.5 CFRO. We are a non-commercial station bringing you voices and stories and perspectives you probably won't hear elsewhere. We are supported by members and by donations. You can become a member by going to our website at www.coopradio.org. If you like what you hear but don't want to be a member, that's cool too. You can still help by clicking on the donate arrow at the top right of the website. Co-op Radio thanks you for listening and for helping build our community of listeners and programmers.
You're listening to Kahit Saan Pa Man here on Jeepney Cafe, only on 100.5 CFRO Vancouver's Co-op Radio.
That first song,
hey?
That first song was real nice.
Thank you.
I wonder who sang it.
I wonder. Oh, does it sound familiar?
Honey by Crescent Muse. Can you tell us about the next song after that?
Oh yeah, the next song afterwards was by an artist named Asukal, which for those who aren't familiar with either Spanish or Filipino means sugar in Filipino, and the song is called How It's Gonna Be. She's actually a really I believe she's up and coming. She lives in New York, I believe, and she was featured in Vogue last year for her style, because she's a very stylish woman.
We should contact her and ask her what her favorite Filipino food is.
Oh, that's true. I wonder. Well, actually, she's from New York, I believe, but she's lived in Manila during her teenage years, I believe, is what
I see.
Yeah, I think she moved to the to Manila when she was young, and then moved back to the States when she was quite old, I think, after she finished high school.
So as promised, we are going to move on to talk about Filipino food in the lower mainland of Vancouver. Actually quite widespread here in Vancouver and in the lower mainland, and it's as easy as looking it up on Google.
Yeah. It's not actually that difficult. There's a lot of very, savvy, tech-savvy restaurant owners now, and at least their children help out, right? Where they have a lot of presence on social media, and we're finding a lot of I think this is also partially why we're seeing a lot of a surgence. Is that the right word? A surge of Filipino food.
Onslaught.
Yes, of Filipino food gaining popularity nowadays is partially because of the internet. Because it's so easy. I don't know about you, but sometimes I like looking on Instagram, just looking for food, and then you find a really cool looking place, and then that's how you kind of get into finding out where they all are. I feel like social media is a great place to look for that.
For sure.
Because I mean, food presentation is like such a niche, not niche, it's like such a widespread market now. So like with Filipino food, there's so many creative ways that people have been able to do it. Oh my gosh, especially the desserts.
Oh yes. Of course, it depends on the type of food you're looking for. So yeah, there are just definitely a couple of just dessert places, and there are places that are mainly entrees and appetizers and whatnot. So they can range anywhere from canteen style or food you can eat with your hands, like kamayan and
the
desserts.
They call that boodle fights here. Actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a lot of
and friends' houses.
Yes,
definitely
friends' houses. That's probably one of the best places to get Filipino food. But yeah, going back to the kamayan thing, they call it, you know it as kamayan. I know it as kamayan as well. But finding out like other people here in North America, in Vancouver at least, call it boodle fights. I was just like, wow, boodle, BOODLE, and then fights. I guess because you fight for the food. Okay. For those,
there's so much food though. How would you even fight for it when there's? Anyway.
But there's For those who aren't familiar, what we're talking about, boodle fights, is kind of like a way of feasting, that's traditional to like parts of the Philippines. So what you have on your table, you usually have a really long table.
Banana leaves?
Yeah, they just lay it out with banana leaves. You don't have any plates usually,
or spoons or forks or anything.
And then on top of the banana leaves, you put on like a layer of rice, like a line of rice that goes along the table, and on top of the rice you put like various side dishes. You have like barbecue in there, you have like fish, you have like mango salad, like just a whole bunch of really amazing food.
She's talking from experience, because not only has she probably had it in the Philippines, but she's had it here. Like there's one in Surrey, and I haven't gone to it yet, but she showed me pictures and I could not stop drooling. Oh my goodness.
So
there's definitely one in Surrey, and again, you can contact us if you really want to know, so that we don't necessarily name drop. There's also around Fraser Street, Mount Pleasant area. I would say on Fraser Street itself, probably between like 26th to 28th. There's a couple of Filipino places over there.
Also a really good a tofu dessert place there I love. It's like
where is it around?
It's I think 26. It's called sorry, it's not. I'm not saying what it's called, but the dish is called taho, which is it's like it's basically a soft tofu dish that you have with syrup, and you can eat it hot or cold. And usually you have tapioca in there, and it's one of my favorite things.
I'm just gonna be here in the background just making noises.
I'm just because they have that as like street food in the Philippines.
Yeah, there's also a great restaurant that's up near 49th in Fraser. That's a really good place to check out.
Yeah, they have like a lot of traditional like dishes, I believe.
Yes, as well as the Joyce area, definitely. So that's like 41st.
Joyce Collingwood.
Joyce Collingwood, which is like near 41st and I would say 41st and Vanessa is probably the more accurate intersection, but it's also near 41st and Kingsway, which is 41st and Kingsway. Joyce and Kingsway is definitely where there's a really
large
great
Filipino population.
Yes, but also specifically a great dessert place that just opened up recently. They had a grand reopening as well, so you should check that out, as well as a few more canteen style restaurants down near the SkyTrain station itself.
There's also Main Street, which I think is like one of the like first places here in Vancouver, or like at least one of the main places here in Vancouver that we've seen Filipino food spring up.
What area? What street? Do you remember?
I would say like around like 10th Avenue, 11th Avenue ish area.
Oh yes, definitely. There's one on 12th. 11th, and then there's
they're like
one
near
12th.
Side by side or something like that.
Yeah, there's like a bakery and then a restaurant along 11th, and then if you go up a little bit.
12th.
Yes, for sure. That's
a very famous Filipino
right attached
bakery
to the church. Yeah, for sure. And then also there's New West. There's a definitely we haven't been there yet. One day we tried but didn't quite get there. It's a silog place. Can you tell us the translation of silog? Specifically more like itlog, right?
Yeah, itlog,
sausage.
It's
basically
like breakfast food. Yeah.
All day breakfast kind of thing.
Yeah, because you can have like tapsilog, which is tapa. Is it? Oh gosh,
I think the last
there's
one,
a lot of like different ways to like.
Yeah, the last one we'll mention before we talk about what's a little across the border. Is probably going to be a place that's right near the Gassy Jack statue in Gastown.
Oh yeah, they have
my god, those fusion like they're like
the
buns.
Flavors.
They're like kind of like meat buns almost, but they're
the thing
delicious.
is, like, the thing is, it's not just Filipino like flavors there. They use a whole bunch of like different flavors from Asia as well.
Oh, yes.
It's just like when you marry the flavors of these cuisines together, it's just so.
They have a dish that's called that's named after a really great group that we like. I get it every time. It's called the Big Bang. So
oh my gosh,
you should get
favorite.
it. I really like. I believe when I brought my friend there who was visiting town. She like loved it. So shout out to Gabby. That's you.
And I think that same restaurant actually, or the owners for that restaurant actually opened up specifically a Filipino like small dishes. I guess kind of like a tapas place as well, like a kind of.
Oh yeah,
an
they have a second
extension.
location, don't they? Oh my god.
Is it still in Gastown? I don't remember. Sorry, we're not
No.
really. We don't. I don't get to explore it as much.
I've been there recently. They closed the smaller place and they have like the bigger restaurant there, and I believe the second location or second and third are elsewhere or being or elsewhere farther from Gastown.
Yeah, we'll have this information up at some point.
Yeah,
on
we'll
our
keep like a running
social media.
tab, and you know what?
Because
we're gonna
we just-
say this on air. We're going to go to some of these places, and we're going to like vlog
Partake.
about it probably.
You know what? It's just a great excuse for us to eat.
Yeah, it will be definitely. I mean, why do you think we had this whole episode? Just to talk about food because we like to eat.
Exactly. Okay, there was one more. Oh yeah, there's one down Broadway near Fraser Street. The one that we used to go
Oh
to
yes,
all
Broadway,
the
Fraser,
time.
definitely. And if you don't mind the travel, let's talk about quickly right across the border.
Oh, that's true. There's oh gosh, hella well known for when you cross the border in Washington State, there is a market that has there's a whole bunch of Filipino food, but right beside the market they opened up a whole bunch of like Filipino fast food places. So if you guys are like really craving Filipino food and don't mind the drive, I think it's like a 5-hour drive down there.
People go there just to eat
yeah.
the food. The area is called like Seafood City, yeah?
Yeah. And it's in Tequila, Washington. And I'm not gonna lie, I've been there last year in the summertime, and the lines are super long, but all the like debit card, like, okay, I'm not trying to like peek at people's cards, but you
But
kind
you
of
are.
see people's cards.
They're all Canadian Vancouver cards.
Yeah, they're like
for sure.
TD cards, or they're like RBC cards, like
Yeah,
they're
for
Canadian
sure.
institutions. And I'm just like, oh, I see, you also drove all the way down here.
So what are your favorite dishes to order in Filipino restaurants? What type of dining do you like?
I kind of like desserts, but the thing is, I also can make the desserts at home, so I've stopped kind of going. I like the things that I can't make, definitely. So like things like pakbet, I can make that at home and stuff like that. But maybe things like oh my gosh, I can't.
Well, you think about that. I'll talk about mine.
Yeah.
Oh, mine. I definitely always go for silogs a lot, like as well as bangos. I always get that because I don't. It takes a while to make, and then it's hard.
Lechon.
Oh
That's what I
yes,
go
that's
for.
what you get a lot, definitely.
Yeah, lechon and oh my gosh, there's one that I can't even think of.
Anyway, we'll talk about it on our social media. We'll have this whole discussion about food on there. So if
So-
you guys want to check it out, we'll
yeah.
list all the things that we talked about today as well.
That's an excuse for you guys to follow us as well. I'm just saying.
So thank you for listening, and make sure you stay tuned for our next show.
Our next show or the next show? The next show after this.
The
Actually.
next show after this.
Which is the reggae show, which is actually really like, it's, I listen to it sometimes. I'm just like, I'm here for this. Always jamming.
Also, check out the other shows hosted by Jeepney Cafe as well as Co-op Radio. If you like the programming here, please consider becoming a member or donating to Co-op Radio at www.coopradio.org. You can also find past shows on that website and the live stream link to listen all over the world.
That's true. Especially with this show. I mean, we're usually here, second to last Saturdays of the month at the same time. But and of course, we try to put our archives up. But sometimes, if you want to listen in, but you're not in Vancouver, it's available. It's available. It's up there.
So the archive as well as the playlist of the music you listen to today will be at our website, kahitsaanpaman.ca.
It might not be there immediately.
Yeah.
I've had trouble. It's hard. It's like you gotta update like regularly, but it's like I have 500 other things to do.
It's okay. They're up there eventually.
Yeah, they are.
So you can be sure to check out that, and also check us out on social media like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and get in touch with us. Definitely. We'd love to talk more, especially about food.
Exactly.
Continue the conversation. You can email us at
kahitsaanpaman.
Yes.
.ca.
Yes.
Let's spell that out. Maybe people might have issues like trying to. Like, we've been saying it without spelling it out last.
Oh yes, for sure. KAHITSAANPAMAN.ca.
Yeah, that's right. And we will be back again next month on April 21st at the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, for those who need to sync your watches. And
I've just noticed what song you put last
Don't
on
you
the
love it?
show. We need to talk a little bit about this song.
yeah, we got some time.
We
So
should
this
talk
song,
about this
It's
song.
so iconic. It's
It is
really iconic.
the Filipino song of the world.
Yeah, so it's called The Coconut Nut by Smoky Mountain.
I didn't. This whole time I've been staring at our schedule, and I didn't even realize what you put as the last song. This is the best.
I know it's really well known. Actually, okay, Ryan Cayabyab, who is one of the most like well known Filipino composers ever. He composed so much like soundtracks and like definitely created Smoky Mountain and also Top One Project. He's a mentor for them as well. Who we love, Top One Project, just saying. And he wrote this song, and it became like this huge thing in the Philippines. Like I'm pretty sure a lot of Filipinos out there know this song, and it's just the cutest song ever. But even the best thing is they had there was a celebratory orchestral celebration of all of his songs, and they played this song with like full out symphony, and it was
amazing.
Just the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. If you guys can find that on YouTube, it's a really fun thing, and it's called The Coconut Nut. Anyway, yeah, so thank you so much for listening. You've been checking out Kahit Saan Pa Man here in Jeepney Cafe, only on Vancouver's Co-op Radio 100.5 CFRO FM. Oh my gosh, I totally messed that up, but I'm gonna go with that. Okay, bye guys.
Coconut nut is a giant nut. If you eat too much, you get very fat. Now, the coconut nut is a big, big nut. But this delicious nut is not a nut. It's the cocoa fruit. It's the cocoa fruit. Of the cocoa tree. Of the cocoa tree. From the cocoa palm family. Coconut tree, you can build a big house for the family. All you need is to find a coconut man. If he cuts the tree, he gets the fruit tree. It's the cocoa fruit. It's the cocoa fruit of the cocoa tree. Of the cocoa tree from the cocoa palm family. The coconut bark for the kitchen floor. If you save some of it, you can build a door. Now, the coconut trunk, do not throw this junk. If you save some of it, we'll have a second floor. The coconut wood is very good. It can stand 20 years if you pray it would. Now, the coconut root, to tell you the truth, you can throw it or use it as firewood. The coconut leaves could shade it gives for the roof, for the walls, up against the eaves. Now, the coconut fruit, same relatives, make good cannonballs up against the eaves. It's the cocoa fruit. It's the cocoa fruit of the cocoa tree. Of the cocoa tree from the cocoa palm family. The coconut nut is a giant nut. If you eat too much, you get very fat. Now, the coconut nut is a big, big nut. But this delicious nut is not a nut. It's the cocoa fruit. It's the cocoa fruit of the cocoa tree. Of the cocoa tree from the cocoa palm family. It's the cocoa fruit. It's the cocoa fruit of the cocoa tree. Of the cocoa tree from the cocoa palm family. It's the cocoa fruit. It's the cocoa fruit of the cocoa tree. Of the cocoa tree from the cocoa palm family.